Man, what a beautiful view. I really hope something like a stampede of wild buffalo doesn't come along and pushes me off this cliff. That would be, really bad. At least I'd be able to get even closer to this beautiful sunset, though, huh? Hey, what's that noise? Cowboys are really cool. Anyone who thinks that cowboys aren't cool have either been bribed to say that, are rage baiting, or have never seen a cowboy in their entire lives. I, however, like cowboys a fair bit more than the average Joe. I just think that riding into the sunset on your trusty steed or having a high-stakes duel at high noon is one of the coolest things on this earth. That and hit game LEGO City Undercover for the Nintendo Wii U. Then all of a sudden, I had a realization. I am a Fakemon artist. I can make a Pokemon region based on this. It's not like I have any other Pokemon regions to work on. Yeah, definitely not. So I would like to proudly introduce Pokemon Frontier. Name pending. Inspired by the American Wild West, but also taking elements from America as a whole. Kind of like what Unova did. But since every region has to start with the starters, except ironically Unova, let's jump into those. All of these starters had their own unique kind of struggle I had to overcome while making these, and for the grass starter it was definitely figuring out what kind of animal it would be. It would, of course, have to be an animal that lives here in the US, but the thing that made it really difficult was figuring out something that would fit well with the overall theme of the starters, which I'll get to in a minute. Initially I wanted to make it an elk, but my grass starter from my last region, Cawton, is an ibex and that felt too similar. After a lot of back and forth, I eventually landed on a bear. They're cute, they live in America, and a lot of Native American cultures connect them to nature, so grass type. Oh yeah, and this whole line is gonna have a lot of Native American inspiration too. The markings on its side resemble a leaf, but they also look like Native American patterns. But now let's address the elephant in the room. Or rather, the bear in the room. Yes, its face is meant to resemble a flower, with the muzzle being the center of the flower. However, the colors and 5 petals on each side resemble the flower of the bear root, found in the Rockies and named as such because indigenous tribes saw bears eating and rubbing the plant all over their body shortly after hibernation. Also, I can't give up a good pun. The petals also help the ears as well as some funny looking facial hair like big eyebrows, a mustache, and a goatee. Other than that though, it's really just a cute, cuddly, chubby little bear. I'm also really glad that it doesn't look too much like Cublow, the water-type starter from my old region, so that's a plus. Here is Florub, the flower cub Pokemon, from Floral, Cub, and Rub. A grass type with the abilities Overgrow and Fur Coat. This Pokemon lives in large families and juveniles will often roughhouse with each other in fields of long grass. However, if an outsider gets too close, they will become timid and hide behind their parents. The petals growing from Florub's face can cure minor illnesses, though it's not used in modern medicine, as many are allergic to these petals. Moving on to the fire starter, I immediately knew what I wanted. A horned lizard. They live in scorching hot deserts, they sunbathe to warm themselves up, and lizards just feel like a fire type. It's a perfect idea. So perfect that it's already been done before. It wasn't until I started coloring that I realized this is kinda just Charmander again. No, of course it's not just Charmander, there's a bunch of stuff in there that differentiates them, but a fire-type lizard starter? Really? Fortunately, the silhouette was very different from Charmander's. Charmander's is more chubby and upright, while mine is much more horizontal. Charmander is bald, while mine is all spiky, and Charmander's hands are almost humanoid, while mine are much more animalistic. So the body language wasn't the problem. The problem was making the colors different enough. I really wanted to make it mostly orange, but I settled on mostly red instead. Also, the tail is not actually on fire. Instead, the tip is glowing with heat, and that little bowl was just an extension of the tail. It's also meant to look like candles, but I don't think that idea really gets across that well. Something I do like about this design, though, is how it kind of has the same blank stare as Fuecoco, but where that makes Fuecoco look like he hasn't formed a thought since Obama was in office, here it looks like a skittish wild animal rather than a domesticated one. That, along with the pose, makes it look like something that's gonna skitter under a bush at the smallest noise, and it helps it feel like an actual creature. So, here is Crispiz, the Bushfire Pokemon, from Crisp and Lizard, a fire type with the abilities Blaze and Reckless. This Pokemon is naturally skittish and will hide in dry grass and bushes if startled. If cornered, they spew flames from a gland next to their eyes, which often lights said bushes ablaze. When startled, it can shed its glowing hot tail. Shortly after it's shed, it will suddenly explode harmlessly, scaring away would-be predators. They enjoy sunbathing on sun-kissed rocks for hours on end. And to round up the starters, we have Water. Unlike the other two, the issue I had with this one was actually not in the first stage at all. This one will come later. But for now, it's just a cute little mink. Now, why did I choose a mink? Because it was the first thing that popped up when I looked up American semi-aquatic animals, that's why. But it has its perks. For starters, I fashioned its long and slender body to look like a swirling geyser, if it were to stand up, kinda like Old Faithful. Do I ever follow up on this cool concept? I struggled on the colors for this little fella for a good long while. I didn't know if I wanted it to have a lighter or darker color scheme, but I eventually landed on this one with a white head, dark blue behind, and transitionary blue in the middle. I keep the design clean, though I was worried for a bit that the white head would make it too similar to Oshawott. Otters and minks are in the same family after all, but the body plans are much, much different. Oshawott has the proportions of a small child, while mine is a wet noodle. Get it? Wet? Like water? I thought it was funny. The yellow in the eyes, ears, and nose are also a little bit of neat foreshadowing for its evolution, which is hinted in a bit in its Dex entry as well. Hydink, the mink Pokemon, from Hydro, Mink, Drink, and Hijinks, a water type with the abilities Torrent and Overcoat. This Pokemon is playful and will swim in large groups to hunt and play. They love to play pranks such as splashing water on land-dwelling Pokemon with their tails. Hydink adores shiny objects. Groups of Hydink that live near civilization will steal shiny things from people, but more wild ones will sift through river sediment for sparkly rocks. Now, seeing all of these starter Pokemon, which one would you pick? Choose fast, and let's see if your opinion stays the same for the evolutions. Evolving Florub was a fairly easy task. I knew I wanted to keep the chubbiness, but I didn't know what kind of personality to give that. The middle stages are always the hardest because while the base form is the cute one, meant to sell plushies, and the final one is the big, strong one that you have for most of your journey, the middle stage is that awkward transitionary phase you only have for a few levels. However, to give the middle stages more identity, many of them have this teenager thing going on. And I think the Gen 8 starters are the perfect example of this. Thwackey is a garage band member, Rabu is trying its best to look cool with his headband, sweater, and bandana, and Drizzile is going through its emo phase. I'm not the biggest fan of the Gen 8 starters in general, but I will give them this. Looking back at Florub's evolution, we can see more of that teen elements with it looking away from the camera, and that new fur around its neck kinda looking like a blanket wrapped around itself. It's just super antisocial, just wants to be left alone. Speaking of, that brown neck fluff, as well as the brown on its tail and belly, do three things. It makes the whole design look more earthy, it introduces the color of actual grizzly bears, and it references Native American wooden carvings. I gave it some whiskers that resemble the filament on some flowers, but that goes away in the final form. In the background of the time-lapse, you can also see a different design for Florub. This was the original one that I made at like 11 at night, so I was really tired when I drew it. When I came back the next day to keep working, I realized that it was actually awful, so I gave it another go, and I like the current Florub much better. So, when Florub reaches level 16, it will evolve into Urbear, the flower bear Pokemon, from Herb, Ursa, meaning bear, and bear. It's like chai tea. A grass type. Urbear have grown past their playful selves and instead hide in caves, curling up in their cozy fur, and only coming out to eat. Their whiskers are sensitive to the air around them, being able to know when winter is coming. Their shed fur is delightful when turned into tea. While it may appear that Urbear never goes outside, they have been known to go out when their family is asleep to enjoy moonlit flower beds. They hate the cold. Moving on to the evolution for Crispiz, this is the one I had the strongest concept for, but the one that kinda just feels like a transition with no real personality. The idea was simple. Horned lizards have this pretty interesting self-defense mechanism where they shoot blood out of their eyes, which was referenced in the Dex intro for Crispiz. Of course, Pokemon would never make something so hardcore, so instead I opted for something slightly less graphic. Guns. After all, you can't have a Pokemon region based in America with no Second Amendment. Except you can, because that's what Unova is. And if you think that a gun is too graphic for a Pokemon game, may I remind you that we got Inteleon, Sandaconda, and a Dragapult in one generation. So here the tail is things that are actually shooting, propped up on its head like a sniper rifle on a shooting stick or a tripod. But this also makes it look like projectiles are shooting out from its eyes. And since the tail is what's acting as the gun, I added blue to the tail to reference heat bluing, a phenomenon that happens when steel gets really hot. It's a technique that's mostly used for aesthetic, but can happen naturally on guns if it gets hot enough. This also references blue-tailed skinks, a species known for their, get this, blue tails. This all comes together perfectly and makes for a really cool inspiration, but the design falls flat in my opinion. I've been trying to avoid Gezbiga syndrome, where Pokemon designs don't change proportions or anything and they just get bigger. And if it weren't for the blue tail, this would just feel like a bigger version of Crispiz. But I feel like the face and concept changes enough to reasonably have its own identity. So when Crispiz reaches level 16, it will evolve into Shoskink, the Iron Sights Pokemon, from Shot and Skink, a fire type. Upon evolving, Shoskink have learned to defend themselves. They use the hole in their glowing tail to spout flames for self-defense, but for long-range hunting they shoot rocks up to 2 miles away in order to take down prey. It will stabilize its tail on its head when hunting. Shoskink have been witnessed staying still for hours or even days just to get the perfect shot to take down prey. Because of its effective and unique hunting style, it can hunt prey 20 times its own size. And finally, for the middle stages, we have the evolution of Hydink. This stage is where the issue for this line really started to settle in. I had no idea where I was going with the body. I'm only showing the time-lapse of me drawing the final version, but there were like 6 other ones I didn't show. Eventually I landed on this one, which kind of has the body that looks like a cross between a ferret and a dog. It's weird and it doesn't look like its previous or final stage at all, but I guess that gives it some identity. I employed the classic Game Freak hair covering the eyes technique here, with this being the Pokemon's awkward teen element as well. Everyone has had a phase where you wanted the weirdest, or just had the often not that great looking hairstyle, and if you didn't, you're lying. Here, it's an awkward looking bowl cut that also introduces a mining theme by looking like a mining helmet. To reinforce the mining theme, it also has a bunch of little mud with flecks of gold in it that is not poop, and having some gold on its tail that makes the shape of a shovel. All this comes together to reference the Gold Rush, specifically the California Gold Rush. That's also where the pre-evolution gets its foreshadowing with the yellow nose, eyes, and ears, as well as its Dex entry. Although all of these cool inspirations, yeah, it's still underwhelming. The design itself is just kind of a nothing burger. Shame. When Hydink reaches level 16, it will evolve into Mustubble, the collector Pokemon, from Mustelid, the family that includes minks, otters, and ferrets and the like, and Shovel, a water type. When these Pokemon find a nice riverbed to call home, they will begin to shovel out sediment from the river and sift through it to find shiny rocks. If another Mustubble tries to take over the same territory, a fight will surely ensue. Mustubble love shiny metals and rocks, but they like gold the most. When they find even the smallest amount of gold in a riverbed, they will stash it in a hole in their home. The hair covering their eyes keeps dirt out when digging around. And those are all the middle stages. Has your opinion changed yet? Well, don't lock it in quite yet, because we still have to go over the final forms. Now that we're on to the final forms of all of these, I think it's time to reveal my master plan for the large, overarching group theme. All of these starters are based on common tropes you might find in a Western movie or story. I'll get to the others when it's their turn, but for now, let's talk about the grass starter. It's based on the Native American guide character, something along the lines of Sacagawea, who helped guide Lewis and Clark on their dangerous expedition to secure more American territory, all while taking care of her baby. This Pokemon, however, is not specifically inspired by her, but rather a Native American medicine. This is a large reason why I chose a bear for this, as Native Americans have something called bear medicine, a concept and practice that involves keeping not only the body healthy, but also the soul. In fact, bear medicine is less of an actual medicine as a spiritual power, understanding nature. On top of all this, the bear spirit is seen as a great healer in many cultures. As for this design, I really wanted it to go down the path of a Native American shaman, with all the patterns from the previous forms reaching into the arms, as well as draping over the hips. The flowering face has evolved into something that resembles a Native American headdress, though those are usually made from bird feathers and not plants. And the light green bit of its big bushy shawl combined with these bright red berries resembles sacred beads. Yes, it did stand up and become somewhat humanoid, but only barely. Get it? Bear. Oh, come on, you guys don't appreciate my puns. Anyways, yes, it did stand up, but because of the bulky build, short legs, and its hands are still animalistic, I feel like it can slide. Also, something that I've noticed that a lot of fan starters don't have, that almost every real starter does, is that in at least their final stage, they have an accent color that's the opposite side of the color wheel, rather than the primary type's main color. That sounds really complicated, but the gist of it is that since green and blue are cool colors, literally every final stage grass and water starter have a warm accent color on them, usually drawing attention to the head. Alternatively, since red and orange are warm colors, a lot of the fire starters have some kind of cool color, for the same purpose. Not every fire starter does this, but think like Charizard's blue wings, Infernape's blue fingers, toes, and ears, and Skeledirge's purple mouth. I started to incorporate this element into my design, so here it's the red berries, claws, and muzzle, as well as the various browns that act as accents to keep the design interesting. Also, since flowers eventually become fruit when pollinated, it only makes sense that if the first stage had a flower theme, then the adult is covered in berries. I was really back and forth on it. I wanted it to be psychic, fairy, or even ghost type, but, well, I guess I'll just show you. Here is Oshawleaf, the spirit bear Pokemon. From Osha, the indigenous word for bear root, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, shawl, and leaf, a grass and fairy type. These Pokemon are incredibly charitable, offering up their incredibly nutritious berries to any Pokemon that appear hungry. They can cure just about any disease, not by physical means but by cleansing the spirit. They sleep for many hours a day. Oshawleaf have incredibly strong family bonds. If a single member of the family goes missing, everyone will pitch in to find them. They keep warm in winters with their incredibly thick fur coats. Their berries can cure any illness, mental or physical. These berries are overwhelmingly sweet. It has a signature move called Berry Boom, which is really just a slightly more stronger, physical, grass-type version of Pollen Puff, dealing damage to opponents, but healing any ally in doubles. In a complete 180 vibes-wise, we have the evolution for the Fire Starter. While Oshawleaf is very relaxed and in tune with nature, the Fire Starter is all over the place. He's super rowdy. Yeehaw! As it evolves, it gains a plethora of new lizard inspirations, partially taking its posture from basilisk lizards, and the face coming from bearded dragons. It took me a good while to figure out what I wanted the face to look like, but I eventually decided on this crazed, almost screaming-looking expression. For our group theming of Western movie characters, this one is the Outlaw, fitting of its new dark typing. Did I get ya? Did I trick ya? This was actually my master plan to make you think that it would be a steel type, with the heat bluing and gun theme from the previous evolution, as well as it being called the Iron Sights Pokemon, but no! It's a dark type! The frills and horns on its head look like a Stetson hat, the band going across its neck looks like a bandana, and the patterns on its hands and feet look like gloves and boots. Thankfully, though, it's fully orange, but manages not to look anything like a Charizard. Though at the same time, I think it's kinda hard to look like a giant winged monster without any wings. A super neat detail is that since Crispa's tail looks like a candle, and that same tail turns into a gun, it's a neat reference to wax bullets, which were used whenever people wanted to duel with each other, but didn't want to kill each other. These wax bullets were still painful, they hurt about as much as a paintball, but they're not lethal. Speaking of, let's talk about that tail. While Shawskink only has one gun tail, this guy has two. This, of course, helps it reference double-barreled shotguns, making it the second reptile in Pokemon to do so. But there's an actual biological phenomenon that occurs that this also draws inspiration from. Everyone knows how lizards can shed their tail in order to escape predators, but sometimes, if the tail is injured or doesn't detach properly, the tail has the chance to branch off, making it look like the lizard has a split tail. Just a little bit of fun animal trivia, ask me anytime, I have a lot more where that came from. And to bring back horned lizards shooting blood from their eyes, similarly to its Prevo, when attacking it will raise its tail up to its eyes so that it looks like it's shooting projectiles from its eyes. However, since it's a whole lot more reckless than its Prevo, it would only do this when it really needs to shoot something. Otherwise, it would just let loose and let the tail fire wherever it wanted. So when Shawskink reaches level 36, it will evolve into Quiblaw, the buckshot Pokemon, from Quick Draw, Blast, Outlaw, and Maw, a fire and dark type. A wild and reckless Pokemon, it has completely dropped its patient nature and instead fires flames from its tail all over, with no regard to its own or others' safety. When settling disputes, two Quiblaw will duel each other, taking the opponent down in just one shot. Quiblaw have been seen working alongside Crocodile to take down large prey, then share the spoils. Even if it uses underhanded tactics, it's not selfish. Only when it needs to surely hit a target will it raise its tail to its eyes for much better aim. It has a signature move called Scattershot, a 110 base power fire-type special spread move that also deals half the damage dealt as recoil. Paired with its ability Reckless, this could truly get to absurd amounts of damage, both on the receiving end and on the user. And finally, the water starter. Listen, it's not really that bad, it's just not as good as the others. This design really is fine, there's nothing wrong with it, it's just wildly outdone by the other two. No shade on you if you like this one the most, I just know that I can do better. Anyways, this Pokemon evolves the idea of the previous stage by turning it into a full-fledged prospector, making it also fit into our group theme. It's got a giant beard made out of gold. Said gold also wraps around its head to look like a mining helmet. Its gold-covered front paws look like gloves. And that gray fur looks like a dirty, grimy old vest, and the tail evolves from looking like a shovel to a pickaxe. Its proportions are also somewhat wolf-like, which gives it a more feral vibe. And coming up with a concept for this Prevo was hard. Oh boy, this was so much worse. I tossed around bipedal designs, quadruped designs, I made one with human faces, I made one with animal faces, and for some reason, none of it worked. Eventually I took a break and got back to it the next day, and that's where I came up with this. And it's fine. Again, I know I could do better, but I was just tired. A big thing I had to get around was it kind of looking like a Samurott. Being based on similar animals isn't doing us any favors either. Eventually I settled on this color scheme, which I felt got the idea across, but also differs from Samurott enough. Who knows, maybe the reason I don't like this one so much is because it's too close to something official. But that's enough beating around the bush, let's address the elephant in the room. The giant thing on its head. Well, so far its concept hasn't been very water-related yet. Yeah, it's an aquatic animal, in the first form referenced gold panning, but that's kind of it. Well, this Pokemon incorporates the concept of hydraulic mining, or using super powerful jets of water to grind cliff sides into a pulp, then dig out all the goodies inside. It was super destructive, reducing entire hillsides to a thick slurry, and some of that slurry got into the water supply, and that wasn't too good. So this was banned after only about 30 years. Well, this Pokemon has a giant cannon propped up on its head that it can use to blast water and perform its own hydraulic mining. And since it's an animal, it can't be held accountable by the law. So here's Aqueeze, the golden Pokemon, from Aquatic, AU, the atomic symbol for gold, Weasel, and Wheeze. After all those hours in the mines can't be good for your lungs. A water and steel type. This Pokemon loves to hoard gold and will often sneak into other Aquee's dens to steal some of theirs. The cannon atop their head is mostly used to blast high-pressure water at mounds where they suspect gold will be, but they can also be used as a deadly weapon. Prospectors used to use these Pokemon to help hunt down gold, though once found, Aquees would refuse to give it up. Despite their looks, they're actually clean freaks and regularly go to rivers to clean the dirt and grime off their precious metals. It has a signature move called Hydraulic Blast, a 130 base power water type move that lowers the opponent's defense, but in exchange has really bad accuracy. And that's all for the starters for Pokemon Frontier. Which one do you like the best? Did your opinion change after seeing the final stages? Let me know down in the comments. But for now, I hope you enjoyed, and see ya, and stay safe.